Anyway, getting on to the highlight of the night. We teased it before. We teased this one.
Little Timmy Shitpossum.
Yeah, Timmy Soup for something.
Soupbum.
Soupbum. Timmy Soupbum. He has given us the highlight of the week with Tim the Tool Soupbum. Here he is. Tim the Tool Soupbum has made alt-right supporting arguments. I wasn't lying about this. So identity has always featured in politics. Tim Soutphommasane, whatever it is, tells Festival of Dangerous Ideas.
I swear, this is. I talk about how the left, they read the XYZ.
You reckon?
Yeah, Lucas Rossis, he had an article with that exact headline at the start of the year.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. He did have that. Yeah.
Identity politics is awesome. And he made that argument. He said identity politics has always been part of Australia.
And here he goes. Let's be absolutely clear about one thing. Identity has always featured in politics.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? You won't find any disagreement from me, and you certainly won't find any different disagreement from the alt-right or any of the people that he dislikes. And guess what he even says? If you want to know what the identity politics in Australia looks like, go back to Federation in 1901 and the Australian Parliament. Go back to and read what Alfred Deakin said pending the introduction of the White Australia policy, when he said unity of race was crucial to the foundation of this nation. Isn't that a form of identity politics?
Well, it actually goes a bit further. Like,
it is, most definitely.
One of the main reasons Australia federated and we wanted independence is because we had a lot of Chinese coming in, and we weren't convinced that the British were actually going to defend Australia as a white nation. Yeah. Yeah. It's basically what it was.
Yeah. And so well done to Tim Soupman for basically making points that the white identitarians make, which is exactly the points. The nation was founded for that exact reason. It was meant to be a white nation from the founding.
Yeah.
And if the founding of the country doesn't mean anything to you, then what are you even doing here?
Yeah.
You know, it's like going to America and saying we don't like your constitution. We don't like the fact that you have freedom of speech and the right to bear arms. Like, then why the hell did you move there then? And this is what Australia was set up as. And so he's just basically made the point. Obviously, he's got more to say because he wouldn't be Tim the Soupman, the Tool, if he didn't want to say, oh, by the way, but it's bad. It's actually bad, everyone. Now, if we are hearing about a backlash to identity politics, I expect that's reflecting a sense of disempowerment that some of a majority background that their identity politics is being pulled out.
So this is what I talk about, framing the narrative.
Yeah.
Like, they know what's coming.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to present it so that when normies hear people like us just, talking about identity politics, they're like, they just feel disempowered. They're just a bunch of like lunatics talking on the internet.
Don't just ignore that email.
I missed that.
Don't worry. So yeah, exactly. And you're right. They're trying to frame that narrative there, but it's basically also a bit of an insult to that majority, essentially telling them, stuff it. Your voice doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're going to do what we want to do, regardless of what you want us to do.
We're going to replace you.
Yeah, we are going to replace you. And that's exactly what he's saying in that paragraph. So we accept that Australia was a white nation. We are going to replace you anyway.
And that very next paragraph.
Yeah.
Mr. Soupbum says that the race-baiting antics of Pauline Hanson are also a form of a...
Isn't that funny? It's like the race-baiting.
He's
exactly.
the race-baiter.
Exactly.
Multiculturalism is race-baiting.
Exactly.
We've been living with race-baiting
the entire
last
thing.
30 years.
And not only is it race-baiting, but when you call it out, you're somehow a racist.
Yeah.
It's like the worst thing in the world as well.
Yeah.
To be a white person who says something that the left doesn't like regarding race.
Yeah. Admiral Akbar. It's a trap. It's all set up as a trap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So one of the debates here, one of the debates here is that you only hear about identity politics being referred to as the claim of minorities. But if you're talking about the dog-whistling forms of politics appeals to racial division, how is it that not a form of identity politics to play?
They're the ones who divided us.
Exactly.
Again, and as I was saying before, and they deliberately divided us for a very express purpose.
And then they come out and say, "Oh, we divided you, but by the way, you're not allowed to identify as the group we divided you into." It's like,
yes.
Well, excuse them what?
Yes. Excuse
them what? Which is one of the things that almost gives me hope, because you hear that. how pissed off does that get you? If you're not pissed off at what Tim Soupman's saying here, and you're white, you're not listening close enough. You're not paying attention, and you're probably, I don't know, like, what's wrong with you? If you're hearing what he's saying there and not seething with anger and really wanting this man to, well, I'm glad that he's speaking, actually. Well done to the Australian.
We don't want.
I was going to say I want him to shut up, but I don't, because I want him to keep talking. Yeah. I do want him to keep talking, because this kind of thing needs to be exposed. This is actual racial hate.
Yes.
He's clouding it in his own leftist feeling good narrative, but this is genuine racial hate here from Tim Soupman, which is why I guess it's a bit of a neo-Nazi talking point, isn't it? You could, like Sargon said, you could just swap the names around a little bit. Who knows? Who knows? So he talks about Pauline Hanson attempting to pass the motion. It's okay to be white. Now, on the face of those words, without any context, there's really nothing objectionable about that. And even in context, there's nothing objectionable about it.
Oh, wow. He actually said that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, my goodness. So he actually said there's nothing wrong with the words.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. See, it's this is a great example of how the left are in retreat.
Yeah.
As well, like they're having to make more and more concessions, but then they slip in there. But
yes, exactly. Yeah. But when do we ever conduct debates in vacuums? You see, it's all about the context. Yeah. The fact that it's okay to be white is used by white supremacists and neo-national socialists, and they use it deliberately to make their ideas sound benign and unthreatening and normal. Which, what do you mean, like ethnically replacing white people in our own countries, calling it multiculturalism, and then calling anyone who calls it out racist? Isn't that deliberately making their ideas sound benign, unthreatening, and normal?
I wouldn't call it what you just said.
Yes, isn't that? I know. Yes. I'm just asking. It's just asking the question. Yes. I wonder if Mr. Tim Soupman has ever thought of it from that point of view. I doubt it somehow.
It wouldn't surprise me if he has.
He probably doesn't care. If he doesn't care, he's evil. But it wouldn't surprise me if he was an evil little Malaysian man.
He's a little small.
I know. He works as an apparatchik for a government organisation where he has a nice sounding title, got paid a lot, and ultimately did nothing of value except to undermine the nation that he was living in.
Yeah.
So good on you. He's probably a terrible individual. Probably. I've never met the guy. Mr. Soutphommasane said there was a lack of civic literacy in Australia, and that citizens who had arrived in the country as migrants were probably better versed on how democracy. Oh, boy. There he goes. The little Asian supremacist. Little Asian supremacist right there.
Migrants were probably better versed in how our democracy.
Listen to that. Listen to Mr. Tim Soupman. Wow. Firing shots across the bow.
See, this is why the test that we give them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Maybe we should make that test a little bit harder. Yeah. Maybe we should do every single test in French. No, not French. Spanish.
Yes.
And English only.
Yes. This is really interesting because this is a tangent, but it comes back to this. So, because in one of the places where I work, like there are a number of people who are not from Australia. Yeah. So the point of this is that they weren't raised to be fanatical about Australian rules football. And there are enough of them here now that they can be in an entire community that doesn't really care that much about Aussie rules football. And there'll be some who latch onto it and go, "Yeah, I want to be interested in Aussie rules football." But it's like civic nationalism. Like it's basically attaching the Australian flag to multiculturalism and wrapping yourself.
And also the implication here that just knowing about democracy, it's like, they just know more about democracy than you.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you might, even if you know more about how the actual system works, we know more about how Australia works.
Yes.
And that's
the point.
Yeah.
And so when enough people from enough different cultures come here, our culture is going to go because already they're not just, they don't care about the bit, the thing that all of us care about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not feeling that social pressure to have to pick a side so that they can integrate into Australia. It's a banal kind of example, but that sort of stuff matters. And so when you have enough people coming from, say, China, and enough people coming from the Middle East, from some quite undemocratic countries coming here. Are they coming here for democracy, or are they just coming here bringing their culture? Like, of course the culture is going to change. Like, that thing does not make sense, because like they're going to come here and look out for their own interests. They're not going to care about democracy. It's going to be like, no, we care about our culture, and we want to bring our country to your country.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like, and we just know more about your country than you do.
Yeah,
guys. We just know about democracy.
Yeah.
We know about it.
Yeah.
So in other words, we know how to manipulate it.
I'm tangenting.
Yeah, you are tangenting a bit, but it's all right. No, it's fine. It was fine.
I've got another tangent thing that can branch off this. Maybe another time.
It's just like,
I'm looking at.
Go on. I know exactly. We need to limit the tangents.
Yeah,
okay. You're all there.
Yeah.
And then I would venture that naturalized citizens who have to sit a citizenship test would know a lot more about Australian democracy than those who have a citizenship as birthright. Irrelevant, Tim. It's irrelevant. It doesn't make a difference to the action. It's just stupid. It's like, oh wow, that's great. I bet English people might know. Some Englishman might know more about the Opium Wars than some Chinese man. It doesn't change. It doesn't make the Englishman Chinese. It's like, it doesn't mean they know more about Australian values and becoming an actual Australian and integrating into our culture. It's just so silly, the idea that you can test someone just on a piece of paper whether or not they're going to integrate just because they know a few things about a country. It's such a high school thing. It's like, oh, you know about this, that, therefore you pass, therefore come in. It needs to be a lot more than that. It needs to be, how good is your English skills? Are you paying, are you taking money out of the welfare system? What's your attitude towards liberty and freedom of speech? And do you recognize the supremacy of Western civilization? And not only are you willing to say that, but willing to live that in your everyday life.
Do you think it's important that they, like when they come to Australia, that they let go of everything that they've left behind?
Yes.
As well?
If you want to be an Australian citizen, definitely.
Yeah. You
can't just come over here and just expect to become an Australian citizen and keep your home culture. I don't know why we allow that.
Yeah.
If you want to be an Australian citizen, you have to leave your home culture. You leave that over there. You have to be an Australian completely. That means you speak English 100% of the time. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be Australian. And
you don't call yourself a Chinese Australian.
Yeah, exactly. And you have the accent and you have the attitude, and even if you yourself might be an immigrant, but then you can have children. Maybe your wife or husband is white, and then your children are half white. Then you raise them to become Australians as well, like real Australians, and then they'll identify with their Australian side rather than their non-Australian side. So it's like that's how you integrate people. But he doesn't want to integrate. He's just like, we're better than you.
And so you don't advocate for your own home country. Or the country that you can.
And you can't do that either, obviously, when it comes to citizenship. I think it should be almost impossible for people to get citizenship. It should take 30 years. Yeah. Something like that. Or I actually think everyone should have to earn the right to vote. But, that's just my opinion. Yeah. Discussion for another day. Yeah. Anyway, he finishes up here. Here's an idea. Maybe we should be introducing more components to our driver's licenses test. Ironic coming from an Asian bloke. Is that not ironic? Just David's lost it here. He's just up in the corner he's pissing himself. You go there and learn the rules of the road, and maybe you should be tested on the rules about democracy while you're at it. That wouldn't be a bad thing. Whatever.
What is he saying?
He's like, you should have a test for democracy. Yeah, okay. You know what? That's not a bad idea. Again, he's making an argument that I support. Yes, you should be tested.
He's saying stuff that like old school boomers were saying about all the Asians when they came in there.
Yeah. And they should be tested on democracy, but it shouldn't be a written test. Yeah. It should be a test forged in fire and military service or some other service to your community where you put your life on the line and then you get the vote in return. And then everyone should have to go through it. Yeah. And then you don't get the vote without it. I know I'm talking about my libertarian power fantasy again, but this is Tim making the arguments of his opponents without realizing it. It's like he started with it and then he's ended with it.
He's also, and this is what.
And look at the last. This is sorry. We got to get to the last bit because we're getting near the end, and it's like you just you can't just rely on schools to impart wisdom onto our children. Every citizen has a responsibility to ensure those around them are good citizens. I agree. You can't trust your schools to teach your children wisdom. You can't trust them to teach anything, can you? And it's like he comes out here, he's pushing these far left multicultural talking points, but whilst saying things that are true without actually meaning it. It's like they're true in a way that he doesn't mean. Like he wants schools to teach more of what he wants. Communism. Whereas I want schools to just stop teaching our kids with taxpayer money.